Please watch this video in full prior and in advance to doing this swap out. And HANVEY products are designed for easy self-service, but you may learn that you need an additional tool, or you may find that the difficulty level is high enough to where you may have to ask a good mechanically inclined friend to assist you. Only do one rail at a time, starting with the rail on the tub side, which is the easier one, especially if you have a cabinet on the right-hand side. Let's talk about swapping out the bearings on your HANVEY elevator table. You will get a kit that has 4 bearings, like you see here, and an Allen wrench. Now what we're going to do first is take this Allen wrench and loosen the top holding bracket for the rail. You only have to do it until you feel the screw get loose. Then we're going to locate the set screw on the bottom of the rail on the flange, and we're going to grab a Phillips screwdriver, and we're going to loosen this and also remove this screw and put it in a safe place. Now we're going to grab the bar and twist it back and forth or in just one direction and push up at the same time so that we can raise the rail high enough to give us enough gap between it and the flange to be able to put bearings on and off the rail, as you see me doing here. If the rail doesn't move when you're pushing it up, you may have to expand the joint. And the way to do that is totally remove the screw from the bracket. Then you're going to need your straight head screwdriver, and we're going to place the tip of it in that joint that you see in the front side of the bracket. And then we're going to take our palm and kind of push the screwdriver into that crack to open up that crack a little bit more and loosen up a little bit on that shaft. If you find that the rail doesn't move well, then you may even want to push the screwdriver in just a little bit further into that joint to give you a little more looseness. And remember, leave the screwdriver in this joint until you're through moving the rail. Now that you have successfully raised the rail to give you room to add the bearings, let's go ahead and tighten the set screw so the rail can't fall as you're putting the bearings on. When it comes to removing the bearings, we need to talk a little bit about the screwdrivers. The best screwdriver to use for the bearing screws are number 3 Phillips screwdrivers. So a Phillips screwdriver, as you can see, this is a standard number 2. It's a little smaller. Then we get into number 3, which has it's kind of a fatter blades on it and looks like a square on the tip of it. As you can see, the standard screwdriver works great for typical screws, Phillips screws. But when it comes to these bearings, we're using a number 3 Phillips screw. And as you can see, this particular bit will fit very snugly and completely fill up all of the gaps in this Phillips screw head. And you're not as likely to strip it. Now let's remove the screws from the bearings. First, remove the clear Lexan splash guard from the tub for easier access to the screws. As you can see, I am using a drill or a driver to remove the screws, but I would highly recommend not using it for putting the screws back in later, which I'll talk about later. Now make sure you accumulate all the screws and washers in a container or sit them in a safe place as you take them out. Now let's loosen the bearings and then get under the table and slide the bearings all the way down off of the rail. Now grab your new bearings and make sure you don't grab your old ones. Grab the new bearings and put them on the rail. And as you push the first one up, let it go up far enough so that the black box kind of holds it in place. Then slide the second bearing up and trap both of them at the top behind the black box. Now go to the top of the table and loosen the set screw on the top bracket. We're going to do this so we can lower the rail back down. When you lower the rail back down, we don't want to go all the way. I want you to notice how far I take it down. So go down to about there and stop. Now we're going to go under the table and you'll see there's a little bit of a gap. And we're going to grab the rail and work it down till we get to the flange like this. Leave it sitting on top of the flange. Do not put it down in the flange yet. Now, make sure the bearings are trapped behind the black box. This way the box can hold the bearings in place for easy access when you get ready to line up the bearing holes with the holes in the box. Now let's gather all the screws from the bearings that we removed a little earlier. Your table may only have this particular washer and no other washer. That is normal because they were installed just a little differently. Later tables may have this additional flat washer. Whichever way yours is configured, make sure you put it back the same way as you found them. So you want to have all of your screws sitting with their washers already on them so you don't have to put the washers on every time you put a screw in. And the reason we didn't put the rail into the flange is because we need to be able to move the rail from right to left to help line up this first screw hole, like you see here now. And we want to put just one screw into that first hole, or whichever one we get a good alignment. And this is where you'll see that it's not such a good idea trying to do it with your fingers, because the black box is so thick that you can't really hold on to it. So I'd highly recommend that you take the screw with its washers and put it on the end of a screwdriver and hold the screws on there until you get it in the hole, and then use the screwdriver to start the screw, and your other hand wiggling the bearing to help get it started on the threads. Now all you have to do is just repeat this on the rest of the bearing screw holes, and do not tighten them all the way. We only want to put these on loose, so that way we do not get forced into having an alignment issue with any of the other screws. Now do this also, repeat this with the upper bearing, and on the upper bearing you want to find that first hole, put the first screw in, and then once you do that, all the other ones should line up pretty easily. Get them started and just put them in relatively loose. Now after you have gotten the last screw in, go ahead and tighten up all the screws to a strong tight. I must repeat this. Now that all screws are in, you need to tighten each and every one of them to a good strong hand tight with your screwdriver. Now let's go to the bottom of the rail and make sure that it seats all the way into the bottom of the flange. You'll know it. Yep, there you go. It's seated completely. Now find your set screw for the bottom flange, get it started by hand, and then use your Phillips screwdriver to tighten that screw. This will use a number 2 Phillips screwdriver. Okay, now grab your Allen wrench and tighten the top bracket set screw. It's easier to turn it using the long end first, and then when you get ready to tighten it, use the short end into the head. Make sure it's nice and snug, but don't over tighten it. Now repeat this process on the right hand rails. You will need to lube these bearings and rails every 3 months, sometimes a little earlier, sometimes a little later, depending on your particular environmental conditions. Lower the table to level number 1, then raise up the spacer, and sometimes the spacers look a little different, but lift up the spacer and hold it. Place some blade oil, about 2 drops on each side of the rail, and don't forget the back side. The oil will drip and slide down the rail. Keep holding the spacer. Raise the table to number 3 level, so it will basically absorb the oil into the bearing area as it's going up. Now lower the table all the way to 1 and repeat back and forth, going from 1 to 4. Maybe 3 times should do it, and this will help smear the oil into the bearings nicely. Now we need to get some silicone grease. Now you can get silicone grease at the auto parts store. Sometimes they have them in little packets, and because they use them to put on battery connections to keep them clean. Some of those are red. You don't want to get the one with the red grease. You want to get the clear. But anyway, get some clear silicone grease from the auto parts store. Raise the table to number 4, and you do not need to put any grease on this lower portion of the rail because the bearings are only moving in this upper portion of the rail. Smear some of this silicone grease, a small amount. It doesn't take much, so a little bit goes a long way. because if you see it gobbed on there, it's too much. We want a very, very thin coating of it on this upper portion of the rail. Now lower the table to number 1, and we're going to take what residue we do have on your fingers and wipe it all over the upper parts of the rail. Keeping this a very, very thin film. Do not let it get thick. Now raise and lower the table from 1 to 4, 3 or 4 times. This will assure that the grease gets evenly distributed within the bearing. Never use WD-40 to lubricate the bearings or the rails. WD-40 is such a light oil that it will wash out any grease that is there, and the WD-40 will evaporate away within the month, and you will have extremely dry bearings. Do not use it, period. Please.